Today, we want to go through the subscriber blueprint, advanced strategies for acquisition and retention in D2C. There's a lot to unpack. I'm excited to get through this with you guys today. We'll kind of run through the agenda here in a second so you can get a feel for everything we'll talk through. But ultimately, we want to help D2C brands kind of drive growth with an emphasis on subscription, the acquisition side of subscription, a little bit on the retention side of subscription, some tactics for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, as that's a little bit over a month away. So it's coming up here really fast. So the agenda for today, we're going to talk through the problem, right? So while you're here, what are those problems that you're facing as a D2C brand? We're going to talk through the solutions. We'll touch on who we are so you get a feel for who Gina is from Stay AI, who I am, if you don't know who either of us are. And then we'll get into the meat, really that subscriber blueprint, the 5 principles that drive forward in a focus on acquisition, a strategy for acquisition and retention when it comes to D2C. Then we'll give you some tactical tips for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and a special offer from both Enavi and Stay AI. If you do have questions, we're going to leave about 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. So feel free to drop those into the comments as they come up as we go through the presentation. And then we'll try to leave some time for that at the end for you guys to answer any questions you do have. So let's get rolling here. An important note, this won't be your typical webinar. A lot of webinars get super tactical. So if you're looking for a bunch of tactics, we're going to touch on tactics. It'll be at the end. Most of what we're going to be talking through is a blueprint, kind of a strategy that you can encompass your tactics into that's ultimately going to drive forward growth for your organization. We're big on strategy, not just a bunch of shiny objects that you can go chasing, but a clear strategy that's driving forward your efforts. So that's where the proven blueprint comes in here. That's really what we're going to focus in on. So let's get into this. The problem, really, there's 3 problems. The first one we're going to talk through is new customer acquisition is expensive. This is not 2016 anymore. It ain't 2020 anymore. Meta ads are not cheap. It's very saturated, very competitive. First order profitability is really hard. I feel like I touch on this all the time, but new customer acquisition is not getting any cheaper. And so the reality is, in order to effectively think about long-term growth for your brand, you have to think about how are we turning more customers into repeat customers, right? And that's where subscription can come into play, can help you scale profitability. So problem number 1, new customer acquisition is expensive. Number 2 here, focusing on the wrong priorities. This is really easy to do. You hear all these tactics, you see all these shiny objects, all these different apps, all these things that you can do to increase your average order value, to increase conversion rate. And it's super easy to get spread thin, to try to do way too much and only go an inch deep and not really make an impact. So we're going to help you kind of focus your priorities, really try to understand where you should be focusing your priorities. When it comes to subscription, where should you be placing your efforts? When it comes to the conversion side of subscription, where should you be kind of focusing your priorities, your efforts? We're going to touch on that today, but that's a big problem we see is it's really easy to get spread thin. And then ultimately you look back at the end of the year or at the end of Q4 here, and you're like, what did we actually accomplish? Did we achieve what we were trying to? And many times, if you're not focused on the right priorities, it's really easy to get distracted and not make the impact you were looking for. The third thing here is relying on tactics, not a proven strategy. So I've touched on this before. It's easy to chase those shiny objects. It's easy to hear all these different different tactics and try to deploy them, try to kind of move the needle on certain things. But the reality is those things can work, right? They can produce short-term growth. They can make an impact. But long-term sustainable growth isn't going to come from deploying a bunch of tactics. And so we're going to talk through a proven strategy for you today. And so when we look at these 3 problems, what are the solutions for them? When it comes to new customer acquisition being expensive, subscriptions can be a way to kind of counter that and help fuel growth when done right. So, right, many brands, when they've got a one-time purchase opportunity and subscriptions, when they introduce their subscriptions or start to push their subscriptions forward, in many cases, that can become easily over 50% of their revenue. And those renewals are incredibly profitable. They come at very little cost. And so it's far easier to reach a payback point with a subscriber than a one-time purchaser. And so subscribers and a subscription option can really help support new customer acquisition, really push forward profitability, which everybody's talking about profitability in 2024. Top line revenue is not the biggest concern for most brands. Second is when it comes to focusing on the wrong priorities, let the quantitative data. Most brands have a plethora of quantitative data that they don't know how to leverage. You can leverage that to help you focus, to help focus your efforts. You can use GA4 to help you understand how users are navigating your funnel, understand your customer journey, and ultimately prioritize correctly. And so that's where we're going to touch on a little bit of the quantitative data, how you can leverage that, how that can impact the acquisition side of the subscriber blueprint. The third solution here is when you're looking at tactics, all the different shiny objects, it really starts with the strategy that starts with the customer. And so I believe this with any business, and especially in e-com, a real strategy starts with the customer. Understanding your customer, having a customer-centric approach that allows you to really understand why are your customers taking these actions, why are they not, then using that to influence the metrics that you're trying to impact. So it sounds really simple, but the reality is no matter what you sell, no matter who your brand is, if you don't have customers, you wouldn't exist. And so you've got to get to know your customer, understand them, leverage that to kind of inform your strategy to drive forward long-term sustainable growth. So those are the three problems. Those are the three solutions. You're going to see that kind of wrapped up in the subscriber blueprint, how we solve those three problems. And so let's get into some introductions here. I'll introduce myself. I'm Anthony, the founder and CEO of Enavi. I started in-house. I've been in e-com for about 10 years now. I know what it's like to be in-house, wearing way too many hats, being spread thin across a million things, trying to understand where should I put my time, where should I not put my time. So I get it. I totally understand what that's like. I'm hoping that today you leave with a little bit more focus, a little bit more clarity around how you should be approaching subscriptions. At Enavi, we are a CRO agency. We work only with Shopify stores and what we call human-obsessed CRO. We really try to get into the mind of your customer, understand why they buy, why they don't buy, and then leverage that to influence metrics. Could be conversion rate, could be average order value, could be subscription rate, whatever metric we're trying to understand. We need to know why your customers are taking that action to influence more of your customers to take that action. Gina, honored to have you here from Stay AI. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and Stay AI.
Hey guys, I'm excited to be here today. I'm Gina. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Stay AI. Prior to founding Stay, I founded an agency called Lunar Solar Group. I ran our retention team there, so everything email, SMS, loyalty rewards, referrals, subscription management, that whole piece. And really, while I was running and building the team there, I got to work with a ton of incredible brands like Olipop and Super Coffee, building out their programs. And like what I found really most exciting was like piecing together all the their tech stacks to create these really interesting customer journeys, from getting somebody on the first time order and then like just optimizing stuff like for their whole subscription experience and how to get the most out of your top customers. So 3 years ago, founded Stay, which is a subscription app that enables you to do all different types of A/B testing and really optimize retention. So I'm excited to be here today and to chat with you guys.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, Gina. We're excited to hop in here and share, kind of get into the meat of the presentation here. So we're going to dive into the subscription blueprint here. We're going to talk through 5 different principles. Hopefully you can take these principles and it helps you focus, have a clear kind of proven strategy to increase your acquisition, especially when it comes to subscription, and then also your retention. So first things first, when it comes to any strategy, knowing your customer is super important, right? So principle number 1 here is get to know the human buying your product. And the way that we like to do this at Enavi is utilizing what's called the jobs to be done approach. If you don't know jobs to be done, ultimately, in its simplest form, it says all of your customers are purchasing your product because they're hiring it to do a job, right? They're purchasing it for a purpose. They're ultimately hiring it for a job. So we've got a little framework here that we like to utilize that kind of outlines some of the situation that's pushing the customer to ultimately make this decision. What are their motivators? And then what that expected outcome is. We like to leverage this. It can really influence your messaging, how you're communicating to your customers, not only on site, but also in your marketing efforts. And so we're going to go through a couple examples here to kind of see how this works out with different brands, different products. But no matter who you are, whether you sell toothpaste or whether you sell a health supplement, customers are hiring you for a purpose. Understanding that purpose, those motivators, that expected outcome is super important to being able to message to them correctly to increase subscription rate. And so 2 examples here. The first one is Snow. If you know Snow, they are a teeth whitening brand. When I am taking pictures on my wedding day, I want to have the whitest teeth so I can look beautiful and share the photos on my socials, right? So the situation is they've got a wedding day. He or she's got a wedding day coming up. They want to have white teeth. For that, that's a big motivator is white teeth, right? That's why somebody buys a teeth whitener. What's important here is kind of the expected outcome, right? They want to be able to share photos. They want to feel beautiful. There's an emotional motivation there under feeling beautiful. And then they want to post them on their socials, right? So we can see here with Snow, this framework kind of work out. This is all based off of assumptions. This isn't real customer research. We're going to go through an example here in a second that'll have real customer research. You'll kind of see how you can take assumptions and turn them into what the customers actually think. So second example here is Life Boost Coffee. They sell coffee. When we look at their jobs to be done framework, we've got when I drink coffee every day, 3 times a day, I want to know that it's non-toxic so I can continue enjoying coffee every day. So individuals that are getting a subscription from Life Boost are probably drinking coffee often. And they really care about the fact that if they're drinking coffee often, that it's not hurting their body. They don't want it to be toxic. They don't want it to be full of chemicals. And so that non-toxic aspect is super important. So they can then, as a result of that, safely know, hey, I'm drinking coffee that's non-toxic. I can enjoy this with every sip that I have. So that is Life Boost. Now into a real example here. So we worked with the cookware brand, and the client's assumptions before we did this exercise with them was when cooking, I want to use the most durable ceramic cookware so I can hand it down as an heirloom. Ultimately, the brand marketed themselves as durable ceramic cookware. So they thought what was most important to their customer was the fact that it was durable. And they used this a lot. And in the fact that it's durable, it can last for a long time. It can then be handed down as an heirloom, right? That was one of the outcomes as a result of it being durable. So we had a hunch that this is off, and their customers actually cared about other things way more. And so what we did was we did a pre and post-purchase survey. So we did pre to non-customers and then post to customers. And so in that, our intention was to understand what was most important to the customer. We wanted to identify what was that key motivator for them. In the end, when we ran this, the brand's assumptions, what they thought was 1, 2, and 3, actually ended up finishing 4, 5, and 6 of the 6 options that we presented to the customers. What was number 1 was non-toxic. Over 90% on both the non-customers and the customers said non-toxic. So if we rewrote the jobs to be done framework for them, this is what it looked like based off of the research that we did. When cooking, I want to cook healthy food using non-toxic cookware so I can keep my family healthy and free of toxins. Now, instead of marketing themselves as durable ceramic cookware, they're marketing themselves as non-toxic ceramic cookware. This is being leveraged on site. This is being leveraged in all of their marketing efforts. And there's a big difference between durable and non-toxic, right? That's a massive, massive leading benefit that now they're they're honed in on, they understand, they're kind of beating their customer over the head with non-toxic because that's why they buy. That's why they care. They want to cook healthy food. They don't want to impart a bunch of toxins into it. They want to make sure that if I'm cooking healthy food, I'm also cooking it with non-toxic cookware. And so that's a real life example of kind of taking this into practice with some surveys and understanding the customer. And then this can be taken back and leveraged in all different kinds of testing on both the on-site and in marketing efforts. So how can you apply this, especially when it comes to subscriptions? Get to know why your customers are subscribing. You can ask subscribers post-purchase. So if somebody purchased a subscription, what inspired you to subscribe? You can ask your loyal subscribers, what keeps you loyal, what keeps you subscribing. Try to get deeper than just convenience or pricing. It's pretty easy for customers to have cop-outs on pricing, but oftentimes there's a deeper motivator that's kind of pushing them to make this choice to a subscription. And then you can take these learnings and call them out. You can talk about these benefits. It's important when it comes to trying to increase subscriptions, you're painting the subscription narrative from that first touch point all the way through to the purchase and beyond the purchase, right? If somebody purchases one time, how can we turn them into subscriber? It doesn't just happen in the buy box. It happens throughout the journey, kind of pushing that subscription narrative, the benefits of subscribing. The second thing here is with churning customers, right? So why are subscribers churning? How do you uncover this? Everybody asks when somebody unsubscribes, what's the primary reason for unsubscribing? The problem is many brands don't know how to leverage this information, or they just get a bunch of cop-outs, right? They get answers like, I have too much of the product. That can be true, right? They have too much, but oftentimes there's something underlying why they have too much. It could be that they don't know how to use the product, or they're not using it often enough. Or it could be that their frequency is too often and your frequency settings are a little bit off, and you should maybe, increase or I guess decrease how often your frequency of delivery is happening. And so you can leverage this in many different ways to educate, to market against it. There's so many different ways you can use these insights from your subscribers churning to influence your marketing efforts, to influence just some of the fundamentals of your actual offer that you have for your subscription. So that's the first principle here. Get to know the human who buys your product. Principle number 2, the inter-site funnel to focus efforts. So if you've seen any of our stuff at Enavi, we talk a lot about the inter-site funnel. Conversion rate is ultimately a vanity metric. It doesn't tell you a whole lot. It will shift and change so much based off of outside variables that you can't control. The quality of your traffic has a massive impact on it, the composition of your traffic. And so what we like to do is we like to take conversion rate and break it up into the 4 key behaviors that ultimately lead to a conversion. So landing to product view to add to cart to begin checkout, and begin checkout to purchase. These 4 steps in the funnel are what lead to a conversion. We've got a free report for you that you can grab here that benchmarks you against hundreds of other stores across the inter-site funnel. It then segments you down across each metric so you can understand, okay, if we're looking at landing to product view, we're underperforming there. You could look at it by device category. How does it perform on mobile versus desktop? By landing page, if a user lands on the home page versus a collection page, how does that influence them getting to a product page? You can look at it by country, user type. There's many different ways you can slice it up. That's all available within this report. It's plug and play. You just select your GA4 property and then it populates with your data. This will help you understand where you're underperforming. It'll identify what we call your metric on fire and where you should be focusing efforts. When it comes to subscriptions, it's super important to understand this because what we've seen here is 3 in every 4 brands struggle with product discovery. So they'll focus all their efforts on the PDP or custom landing pages, or when it comes to subscriptions, the buy box and improving that. But their biggest bottleneck is actually users land on the homepage or they land on a collection page or a blog and they're not getting to a product page. We try to target 50% of those users getting to a product page. And we found that just a hair under 75%, I think it was about 72% of the stores that we've either audited or worked with have struggled with this particular metric, what we call product discovery. Another thing to note when you do go through and take a look at this report, you're going to find that you have a metric on fire. We've seen 100% of stores have a problem. Whether it's globally or under a particular segment, there is going to be a large segment of users that are struggling with a step in the funnel. How can you improve that? Understanding how you're performing that quantitative side will help you focus your efforts. So I'm going to give a practical example here. This is a case study from a brand that we've been working with. It's Deco TV frames. And so I'm going to ask a question for you guys. What's the first thing that comes to mind when someone says, we have a $424 AOV and PDPs are not performing well? Oftentimes what we hear in the e-com space is try custom landing pages. That's what you got to do. You got to go put all your efforts towards custom landing pages. You should be driving them, especially at that average order value, to a custom landing page. The problem here is we see that as a Band-Aid fix. Can custom landing pages work? Yes, they do. We do that. It can be an important part of your new customer acquisition, your paid efforts, but it is actually a Band-Aid fix, and the PDP is a big problem that needs to be addressed because there's going to be users that are coming elsewhere. And we can see that with Frame My TV, right? They had 28% of users landing on their PDP, and it was well under indexed. Only 7.26% of those users that landed on the PDP added to cart. Our target is 12%. We want 12% of these users to add to cart. So we focused in there. That's what we identified as our kind of metric on fire, our strategic priority. And we spent 90 days of focused research and testing on this problem. Now they're at 10.7%. That's a 47% increase on add to cart rate for this segment. And so a massive impact for users that land on the PDP. But the reality is they've got 72% of other users that are landing elsewhere. And we can see an impact here for those users where across all users, there's a 17.7% increase in average revenue per user. And so those users that are coming from the homepage and the collection page, those users are now converting better on the product page than if we would have just focused our efforts on custom landing pages. So it's really important to use the inter-site funnel to focus your efforts. And this is an example here with Deco TV frames and how those efforts can make a massive impact when you focus. Principle number 3 here is always try to improve your offer formula to increase LTV. So when we look at subscriptions, this is something you should constantly be looking at ways to improve it. If you really want to increase LTV, the formula is made up of really these 3 areas. There are other things that can play a factor, especially when you get into retention to help increase LTV. But from a new customer acquisition standpoint, these really are the first 3. So you've got price, bundle size or quantity, and frequency. When we look at price, this is one where at this point, I would say it's probably table stakes to offer a discount with a subscription. Gina, what would you say to that kind of statement there? Table stakes to offer a discount with a subscription, especially if you have a one-time purchase option.
Yeah, I think so. I've seen a couple brands try to get away with it with, oh, well, we'll just do free shipping because like we don't do discounts or we'll do some type of other incentive. I mean, 99% of the time, you really are going to want to offer some type of discount for a subscription offer. If not, there's other ways around it. But yeah, most of the time, you're going to have to do some type of incentive to get people subscribed.
Right. How do you think about that price? How do you think about what the discount should be that you're offering? You know, what are some helpful ways to help brands think about this portion of the formula?
There's definitely a sweet spot. I think that sometimes like 25 can be too high. And like we see a lot of like 10 to 15%. Also, I've seen brands test a dollar amount versus a percentage, which I do think is interesting. And you can also just toy like with the display of it, keeping it 10%, but deciding how you're going to display the discount amount. I think that sometimes when you go too high, while it can increase the amount of people who will join subscription, the churn might also go up because it's just too high of an incentive that people will join in that really never intended to be on a subscription. So it's important to kind of find that sweet spot.
Yeah, you get those discount seekers that are kind of they're seeking those opportunities and they know how to cancel subscriptions. And they'll hop in, they'll have a month, and then they'll pop off, and there'll be an early churn that should have never been a subscriber in the first place.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned cancellation surveys earlier, but I think it is important if you have a cancellation survey to have that as one of the reasons that people cancel. Is like I just subscribed for the discount, just that
Right.
you can see what that is and then play with the discount amount. It'll never be perfect. Some people will always do it to game the system to save 10%, but it might help you figure out what the right amount is.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Cool. The second portion of the formula here is bundle size. So how many and what size, kind of your quantity. One of the ways that we always try to think about it is if you're the customer, you want to make sure that it's easier for them to envision how much they need and how often they'll need it. The easier it is to envision that, the less friction there is in that like decision making process. I know there's a billion different ways, Gina, that bundles can come into play, and it's all dependent on product and brand. But what are some of the things that you've seen from a bundle size and quantity standpoint that is helpful for brands to think about with their subscriptions?
Yeah, so bundle sometimes can be one of the most confusing words with subscription because the difference between build a bundle or like build a box, people will just call bundles and then like bundling other products. And then like, where like I like to think of it as like, are we gonna gate people in? Like, do we want to put a wrapper on it? We call it, it's called a parent object, but like, do we want to put a wrapper on it and say like, hey, the bundle always has to be these fixed items. The bundle always has to be a minimum of 3 items. Or do we just want to get people in with like a couple of different items in their cart and then let them move things around over time? So bundling, like I love a custom bundle sometimes, like especially if like for brands that are like, okay, we'll do a better discount if you have 3 to 5 items than if you just had one or two, and then doing some type of parent bundle. And also I think it adds a level of gamification with these custom bundle boxes that customers just love.
Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah. It's important when it comes to bundle and quantity to not compromise flexibility for simplicity in the process. It's so easy to do that.
Yeah, we've seen a lot with like especially like hair care or like body anything like that. If you're too rigid where it's like a hair care kit like shampoo, conditioner, body wash that comes and you don't let people skip one of the things, they'll just cancel the whole thing if they've got a ton of conditioner when really you could have gotten them on one. So it's important to like know your product catalog and be really flexible with bundles.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So the last portion of the formula here is frequency. And I'm sure you hear this all the time. We hear it all the time. What's the right number of frequency options to display? You should have a 4 week option because if you do it every 4 weeks instead of a month, you get that extra subscription in the year. There's so much to think about when it comes to frequency. Gina, what are some of those things that brands should be thinking about when it comes to the number of frequency options they display, when it comes to thinking about this portion of the subscription offer formula?
Yeah. So I love when brands have, 2 to 3 options for frequency, and really think about what is the best intentional frequency for the product. So sometimes like people will, try to optimize like, oh, we'll just default to every 2 weeks. And like, maybe people will change it knowing that like most of the audience doesn't need the product every 2 weeks. But they want to get the order revenue in every 2 weeks, which I really don't think is the right way to go about it. One of the number one cancellation reasons we see across the board is I have too much. So we're kind of trying to like throw these high frequencies at people where like if you can just get the right amount of the product to the customer, they'll stay on subscription forever. And I think there's also a question of like, do you allow people to make their own frequencies and whatnot? I think pick 2 or 3 frequencies that you think really make sense for the product, and lead with one. And don't be afraid. Like look at your product catalog. Some products make sense every 1 month. Some products make sense every 6 weeks, and that's fine to have different products on different frequencies.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and you got to think about frequency and kind of your quantity, your bundle size too, and find a balance there. Especially when you're thinking about new subscribers, which leads perfectly into this case study here because Hopwater, they did a really good job of thinking about this, like offering flexibility within their kind of bundle option. And so, can you tell us a little bit more about how Hopwater did this and how that ultimately reduced churn, increased reoccurring revenue?
Yeah, I love this example. It's really applicable to a ton of brands. So Hopwater, I love it because they just come right out and address it, is that they get most people into subscription with the variety pack. But variety packs for almost any brand typically have the highest churn because people come in on that product. And sometimes, like when you look at product-based churn, it's not necessarily a bad thing because dependent on your subscription platform and how you're viewing churn, it might just mean that they swapped off the product. So just because people are coming in on the variety pack and churning off variety pack doesn't mean that variety pack isn't a good intro offer. It's a great intro offer. You just need to make sure that customers know how to swap after that. So what Hopwater did was they got people in on variety packs and then made it really easy for customers on the next order to swap in and out the different flavors that they preferred more of and customizing their actual packs. So they saw this had a great impact in churn as well as cancellation surveys. And so they have multiple touch points where, you're getting an email from that if you got a variety pack that you can update and pick the, right things that you want before your next order. When you go into the portal, if you go to cancel and you say, because I don't like the flavor, I don't like the product, it then prompts you, are you sure you didn't want to just swap to other products? So across those like kind of different touch points, they were able to get a 40% reduction in churn. Looking at that, which I think, is just, it's really, really meaningful. And then if you're able to cut down on churn, obviously, if you're bringing in the same amount of customers month over month, your existing subscriber base just continues to grow.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That one touches home for me because I love like LaCroix and seltzers. You go and get those variety packs, and there's always one flavor that's thrown in there that you just don't like. And so that would be just a total friction point for me if I was, subscribed to their variety pack and if I didn't have the option to switch.
Oh, I lost you for a second there, Anthony.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, you're back.
Cool.
Oh,
Well, we're good. Fourth principle here.
oh, we love a technical difficulty on the live. Sorry, guys. We'll see if he joins back. But until then, you're all stuck with me. I will screen share and go through the next if we don't see him back here in a second. Is anybody else on the live in New York today? Or at least on the East Coast? Anybody? Where are all you guys? Denver. Hello.
Weird. My Zoom just totally just shut off.
Oh, you're good. We were just getting to know where everyone's based.
Cool. Well, let me share my screen and we'll get back into this here.
Ooh,
All right.
That's exciting.
So we've got number 4 here. Education is your greatest weapon in reducing churn. I'm going to kind of lead this off with a real story, a real personal story. I once subscribed to Rogaine. So if you notice, I love hats. Anybody who knows me, they've probably rarely seen me in not wearing a hat, unless it's like a wedding or a funeral or a date at a nice restaurant. I'm probably wearing a hat. And there's really 2 reasons why I love hats. First, I love hats. Second, I have painfully hard hair to style. And it may or may not be thinning. So that might be part of the reason why I subscribed to Rogaine. But a few years back, I went through some heartbreak and I became driven to fixing my thinning hair to gain some confidence back, to scrap the hat for a little bit and style my hair. So naturally, I subscribed to Rogaine. I started using it every day. I was really intent on kind of taking care of the thinning hair problem. The problem was, though, after 3 months of doing it nonstop, I lost the drive. I wasn't seeing the results. I was questioning whether it was working. And then I gave up and I canceled my subscription. So why did I churn? What was ultimately the underlying reasons to why I churned? Was it because Rogaine doesn't work or it wasn't working for me? Probably not. I think it's proven and it has worked. Was it because I was an ideal customer? That can't be the case because I still use other product and I've seen some results. Was it because I had reached kind of my maximum LTV and that was the end of my lifetime at Rogaine? If it's 3 months, then Rogaine's in trouble. I don't know how they've lasted that long. Uh, was it too expensive? Definitely not. As seen by the fact that I have other options that I'm leveraging to take care of this same problem. So ultimately, the reason I churned was because of a lack of education, and that led to a lost trust in the result. And as a result of that, I unsubscribed from Rogaine, right? So what could have Rogaine, what could have they done better to help support me in that journey? And so some of the things they could have done is more education. So education in their subscription box, education in email and SMS. There's all different ways that they could have leveraged education to help me understand how does the product work, how often I should be using it, setting realistic expectations of when I should start seeing results. That one's super important because 3 months in, I wasn't seeing results and I was like, nah, this isn't working for me. More examples of real results. If they would have shown me some before and afters, if they would have packaged that up into their subscription box of like, hey, in 6 months, here's some real results, that would have put a little bit more motivation in me to continue doing it up into 6 months, right? So the reality is there's plenty of things that Rogaine could have done from an education standpoint to keep me on as a subscriber. And that's really the power of education. For many brands, the reason subscribers churn early is because of a lack of knowledge, lack of trust, and as a result, they end up churning. And so a great example here is Beekeepers Naturals. They did this, and as a result, they saw an 88% increase in monthly active subscribers, a 62% increase in monthly recurring revenue by layering in all different kinds of education. Gina, can you talk a little bit more kind of about this, how they reinforce subscription and ultimately
Yeah.
were able to combat early
Yeah.
churn?
Of course. An example that I try to give to everyone that I think is, I don't know, like maybe it's not like directly, but I think it's helped some people like think about how they should be messaging it is like, have you ever heard of like when somebody like a woman is pregnant and they will use one of those apps and it's like, oh, like my baby's the size of an eggcorn today, like my baby's the size of an egg, the size of a melon, the size of a watermelon, whatever. And it like keeps you so interested in something that you can't really see. Like, yes, like their stomach is getting bigger, but like you don't actually like kind of know what's going on the inside, but you're so engaged and you like feel like you're part of the journey. You really kind of feel like you get it. That is kind of how you want to approach a lot anything like in the supplement space. Because what happens with your Rogaine example, and like anything like this, it's not like you take a vitamin and the next day you're like, I am so much healthier. Like a lot of
Right,
these things, it takes 30, 60, 90 days of taking a supplement to like really start to like see or feel benefits. And sometimes you'll never like taking a daily vitamin, you'll never like see the benefits.
right,
So this education is so important. And telling someone like, a collagen supplement, for example, like, after 30 days of consistent use, like collagen is restored 20% more. And I'm making these numbers up in your like, this is kind of what you can expect after 90 days and building that story. And I think that's what beekeepers, for some of their supplements, like were able to do. And they were able to build hype around the subscription and say, hey, this is, like the product you're subscribed to, this is what's coming out. This is what you should be feeling a month or so in. This is what's to come. And like, this is why you want to stick with it. Like there's just so many things where you really won't see a difference. I mean, I'm thinking with, the Rogaine, it probably takes like months of consistent use,
right.
to really know if you're using it. I'm using a supplement right now, Airy Gray, that like stops grays from coming. And it's so hard because I'm like, would I have had more if I wasn't using the product? Like I'm kind of blindly
Right.
trusting. I think I'm fairly confident it's like working pretty well. But yeah, so I just think like that's what Beekeepers was able to do here. And a lot of brands kind of sleep on that. They just send the upcoming order email. And if you are sending the upcoming order email and it says, we're about to charge your card, and that's the messaging, like huge miss there. You really need to be like building hype about the product. Like we don't want to lie that like the upcoming order is coming, but it shouldn't be like we're about to charge your card. It should be like more like health is on its way, like your supplement is coming, like get people excited.
Yep. Yeah, no, exactly. That's so true. Education's even harder in those products where you don't quite see the difference or feel the difference, but it's there. And that's a portion where education could be a huge weapon to reduce churn, where it's actually working for the customer, but they don't quite realize it. And educating against that messaging properly is super key to reducing that churn and what could have been a long subscriber. So principle number 5 is testing is the only way to validate you're making a difference. So the reality is when it comes to testing, there's some key statistics that I want to talk through here. Some examples from our work at Enavi, and then some stuff about the industry too. And so when we look at Enavi, and this was based off of about the last year or so of testing, only 43% of tests at Enavi win. So there's the vast majority of tests are not winning. There's 57% of tests are either flat or losers. And so the industry average is a 12% win rate. And so there's very low industry average when it comes to win rate. And then companies that experiment or test their experiences, they ultimately have a 2.3 times higher growth rate than companies that don't. And so there's a lot of value in testing and experimenting, really trying to understand, hey, are we making a difference? Are you making a difference for your customer? Because just imagine there's so many implementations that you've just gone ahead and implemented and never tested that actually were probably losing tests. Or you put a lot of effort in and they really didn't make a difference to the customer, but you'd never know because you never tested. And that's where there's a lot of value in testing. We've got an example here with the brand Grubly Farms. They sell chicken food. They've got it on a subscription. So for your chicken, you can buy some high quality chicken food. And so one of the things that you hear a lot, it's one of the common tactics when it comes to subscriptions, is enable your subscription as kind of the default option on the PDP. So the user lands on the PDP, subscription is what is enabled by default. We've got a test result here that should have you proceed with caution and definitely test before you do something like that. So with Grubly Farms, this was the first test that we ran with them around their subscription buy box. This ultimately resulted in a 10.14% decrease in conversion rate. But not only that, there was only a 2.1% increase in subscription rate. So not only did it not have a massive boost to subscriptions, it had a massive impact on conversion rate. And really our takeaway here was there wasn't a strong enough value prop or benefits communicated around subscriptions, right? The perceived larger commitment that a subscription is. And as a result, it really caused a lot of friction for users. And kind of the normal and expected experience is for one-time purchase to be selected by default. That doesn't mean that this can't work. And in some cases, you should default to subscription as enabled. I would say test it. And so as a result of this, we made an iteration on this test where we added the subscription benefits into the buy box. But we didn't have subscription enabled by default. We still had one-time purchase enabled by default, but we just added some benefits here into the buy box. This ultimately led to a 40.13% increase in subscribers, 100% confidence on this test, and there was no change in conversion rate. Conversion rate was pretty much flat. And it was pretty clear. Our big takeaway here was that when we communicated the benefits of the subscription effectively in the buy box, it helped lessen the anxiety and friction and increase the motivation around that larger commitment that is a subscription. And as a result, there was a 40% increase in subscriber rate through this. And so that's where you should test. There's many things that we can do from this to continue to iterate off of this learning that we need to double down on the benefits. It's pretty clear that when they were effectively communicated here, how can we effectively communicate this throughout their funnel? Is there other areas? Could it be even post add to cart to kind of double down on the subscription benefits? And so that is an example there of why you should test. any of those tactics you hear, probably worth testing. And so one of the things that I love about Stay AI is all of the testing capabilities within the app, and how those can be leveraged to really, really improve your subscription offering, your retention. Gina, can you kind of talk through the experience engine and everything that Stay AI offers?
Yes, absolutely. So part of the reasons like why I wanted to build Stay in the first place was because I had this idea for Experience Engine, and like what we could do. And for years, like before Stay existed, brands would say like, oh man, we really want to test or like do a free gift on the second order or like something like that. And I was like, that just is going to be challenging to put in place to try to tag the orders and get the fulfillment center. So with Stay, we built a tool called Experience Engine, which allows you to do a lot of different things now. But when we first launched, was able to do something like A/B testing a free gift on second order or something like that. And now, I mean, we've really expanded it where you can use like our AI models are able to detect if somebody is a churn risk coming into their next order. So you can offer gifts for people that are potential churn risks. We're looking at the product they're subscribed to, the retention rate of that product, the order number, have they skipped in the past, like all of these different factors to kind of detect that. It is creepily accurate. And then you can also do like targeted upsells. So yeah, like this is showing comprehensive A/B testing where you can do A/B testing on offering a free gift versus not offering gift and seeing what the LTV of that cohort is over time, and seeing if the free gift actually got more people to the next order. You can A/B test upsells. So maybe you want to say like, hey, like everybody who's subscribed to lemon soda, get cherry soda for 50% off on your next order and versus 40% off and see the take rates.
Right.
I talked about, yeah, AI to segment churn risk already. And then, sorry, you can go to the next one. And then on deep dive on analytics, like I think this is really important. So there's a couple other apps out there that'll be like, oh, we can do like a free gift on the second order. We can do an upsell. But if you're not able to just very clearly dive into those segments, you're going to have a hard time deciding like, was the free gift worth it? Like, does it make sense that maybe we spent, extra on shipping? We had to obviously pay for the gift, like all of the costs that come along with the free gift obviously is going to cost your company something. So is the lift you're getting from those customers getting them to the next order with the AOV they have, like, is that enough? Does the math match? So
Right.
that's what we try to lay out here is all the different KPIs around these tests to see if they make sense.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, the only way you can validate this is by testing it. You can make this change, but you can validate it and actually understand through testing, is this a business decision that we should make? Is it worth the cost? Is there an impact that makes it worth it? And Avi has a great example of how they leveraged A/B testing within Stay uh, here and how they increased their both on second subscription and third subscription. They were able to increase the amount of subscribers with this. Do you want to talk through this case study here on how they leveraged gifts?
Yes. This one I love, and I think this just really shows why you need to A/B test things. So what we did here is we offered three different gifts, a free gift on the second order, third order, and fourth order. We A/B tested all of those to see at what points, like, did the gifts actually drive a difference in people making it to the next order? So after you got your first order, you got told you're going to get a free gift. Half the audience got told they're going to get a free gift on their second order, and so on and so forth to the fourth order. The second gift saw the second people on the second order saw an 85% lift in conversion rate of actually completing the second order. So people got notified after the first order, hey, you're going to get a free gift. 85% higher conversion rate of people going into the second, which is really, really important for a company like Avi with the customer acquisition costs, knowing that you're offering a discount on the first order. Some companies are not profitable until the second order. So getting
Right.
85% more people, that was key. On the third order, we saw there was only a 15% lift of people. So the gift there, we were like, okay, like if we can get this gift to cost us less than X amount, like maybe this will make a difference, but it's not huge. And by the fourth order, there was no lift by telling people they were going to get a free gift. So at that point, it was really just like, hey, if we want to run this, it's just a feel good play. Like sending the gift, like actually won't do anything for our retention numbers at order number 4.
Right. Very interesting. You can see the impact across kind of the subscriber's journey. and ultimately make informed decisions based off of the data there.
Yeah.
So that is the 5 principles of the subscriber blueprint. Get to know your customer, focusing your efforts, really dial in your offer formula, use education, and then test, right? Kind of an TLDR for you. The last thing we're going to touch on here, so we've got 5 minutes left. We're going to get to those tactics. Some of you have probably been waiting for these. These are going to be Black Friday specific. We're going to run through 3 different tactics that you can leverage this Black Friday to help with your subscriptions. The first one here is use Black Friday, Cyber Monday to reactivate churned subscribers. Gina, I'd love to hear a couple different ways from your end. There's a few examples that we dropped in here, how you could try to bring back, ultimately win back a churned subscriber with a percentage off their first month during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or giving them access to an exclusive one-time product when they subscribe. What are some other ways that you can win back customers during Black Friday, Cyber Monday?
Yeah, so I've seen a couple brands getting really, really proactive with Black Friday, Cyber Monday campaigns, 3 months out, where they're letting their customer base know that subscribers only will get to see some type of, either it's a feature or a product release or a discount or something, but only subscribers will be able to see it in their portal. So they're getting people to subscribe before Black Friday, Cyber Monday in anticipation to buy the new thing once they're a subscriber over the holiday period. Another thing, like, really, is emailing any churn subscribers with some type of notification about that. Like, if you're going to do something exclusive, or, there's going to be some type of benefit to being a subscriber, send an email to all churned customers and be like, hey, we're bringing this back. There's
Right,
probably a ton of customers who churned that it was just bad timing. They had too much product, that type of thing, where there's no reason not to win those back.
right. Cool. Number 2 here is give exclusive access or deals. You already kind of touched on this a little bit, how you can kind of create a VIP treatment for your subscribers, whether that is a free gift, kind of surprise and delight them during the holidays, or giving them exclusive access. There's so many different ways that you can create that VIP experience for your subscribers during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. The reality is, within your subscribers is probably a cohort of your most loyal customers, your highest LTV. So why not give them a VIP treatment during this time of year? The last thing here is, oftentimes a common tactic is, hey, let's try to increase the amount of subscribers that we're getting, new subscribers during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, by having a steeper discount. And so one thing you can do here is offer a free gift instead. So a free gift to all new subscribers, or incentivize a larger subscription option, whether that's bundle size or quantity, and they get a free gift with that. So instead of buying a 12-pack, you buy a 24-pack, you get X during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. What are some of those things that brands can do besides thinking about discount to kind of influence new subscribers during Black Friday, Cyber Monday? Beyond just a gift, Gina, what are some of those things that brands can think about?
I mean, gift, exclusive access. I loved this example from a wine company, or I guess non-alcoholic wine company, Shirley. They did these like Black Friday subscriber exclusive items that people could buy, where it was like wine stoppers or like picnic baskets, like these like different types of like almost merch that was like very exclusive, that I loved. So customers were buying it. It wasn't a free gift, but it was like exclusive for VIP customers to even be offered that product, which I think if you have a strong enough brand can work really
Right,
well.
right. Yeah. So there's your 3 tactics for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. There's a case study here, Gina, from Vita Coco that leveraged during Black Friday, Cyber Monday to help reduce churn, to help on their customer acquisition costs. Can you kind of talk through this and how they were able to use Black Friday sales event to do this?
Yeah, so they were really strategic in their messaging, segmenting out emails from first-time customer, people who had never purchased before or only bought one time, people who were repeat customers, subscribers, churn subscribers, and kind of had a different offer for them. What they were able to do here was actually reactivate a ton of churned customers going around the holiday. I think they gave like an extra incentive on just that first order, and then the regular subscription discount, which performed really well for them. Going out and like trying to spend like on ads to acquire those customers is much more expensive than sending an email and giving a little bit more of a discount on that first time coming back to subscription. So that worked really well, because like if you have a lot of canceled subscribers from over the years. Like, do not sleep on that. And then I think just like really targeted getting customers who weren't already subscribers, who'd maybe just bought one time into the benefits of subscription, why it makes sense, and getting them to start a subscription all worked really well for them.
Right. Cool. Well, the last but not least, we've got an offer for you. At Enavi, we're offering a free conversion audit. So if you're a Shopify store doing 7, 8, 9 figures, we'd love to give you a free conversion audit. A lot of what you saw today, kind of around the intra-site funnel, helping you focus efforts, is what's encompassed in that audit. We're going to dive into your data and take a look at that so that you can focus your efforts, understand, hey, what's our metric on fire? What should we be doing to ultimately improve our on-site experience? And then Gina, Stay's got an offer here too.
Yes. So $200 off the base fee of Stay per month for the length of your subscription with Stay. So if anybody is interested in signing up or switching over to Stay from your subscription platform now, please mention that you heard about us on the webinar when you're talking to the sales rep, and we will get this loaded up for you.
Cool. We've got links for you to both of those offers in the chat. But would love to give you that conversion audit. And then you should, of course, take a look at Stay if you're on any other platform or if you're exploring subscriptions. That's all that we've got for you today. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get to a Q&A. If you do have any questions, myself, you can reach out to me via LinkedIn. Gina, I don't know how active you are on LinkedIn, but if somebody messaged you a question, would you be able to answer that?
Yes, go ahead. My LinkedIn inbox can be a bit crazy, but I do try to
Right?
I do try to respond to any questions.
Yeah, I have to hire somebody else to manage that because it's just a mess. All
Yeah,
these cold emails that you get nowadays. But
the bot. So I try to sort out and answer all the real stuff.
right, yeah, yeah. So feel free to reach out to us there. But thank you everybody for your time, and that's all we've got for you. See ya.
Thank you. Bye, guys.